today, the person who is with us as a guest, he don't needs an introduction, but still I will do the introduction because that's the format of the show. So thank you so much, Mr. Meghdut RoyChowdhury sir, for giving us 1 hour, and it's very precious for us because whatever the ventures you are doing and whatever the transformations and revolutions you are doing in education and all these other kind of futuristic ventures, that's really appraising as well as very, very interesting to see and get inspired from it. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. I'm just going to give a small introduction of yourself so that people can all the people know about you, but still that's the format, so I am going with this.
Go ahead, no problem. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to be here with Arijit from Think Again Lab, and I've been following his work as well. And seems like it's going to be a very interesting conversation for the next hour. So stay tuned.
Absolutely, sir. We are glad that you are following us. You are watching our work, and that's really great. So, Mr. Meghdut RoyChowdhury, who is an entrepreneur, public speaker, startup mentor, and change maker on a mission to redefine the future of education. He started his first company at the age of 19, a music recording studio by the name of Blooper House Studios, which has till date produced more than 2,000 albums and artists from across the world. Meghdut has a master in management with a specialization in international business from HEC Paris, Stanford University, and Tel Aviv University. He is currently the Director Global Operations at Techno India Group, one of the largest educational conglomerates in India, and has been driving a new wave of experiential interdisciplinary learning for adults of its CCU, a school of the future. He also runs a working space for startup incubator called Technopreneurs Surrogate Ventures in Kolkata. He has received the Eminent Young Entrepreneur Award at the Times Knowledge Icon 2018 in Kolkata, India, for his work in the field of promoting young entrepreneurs, initiatives in emerging technologies, and has a special interest in reviving the independent music scenes of his hometown through promoting live gigs, events regularly at Top Cat CCU. He has recently gifted the City of Joy with its first international design school, Ecole Intuit Lab, Kolkata. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. And we are very much fortunate to have you in this show. And as because it's about innovation, it's about doing something new, and you are an icon for doing that stuff. And I am a huge fan of you for all the ventures you are doing. Thank you so much for being with us. So let's start with the question, because it's a talk show. We have to go with that particular procedure.
Let's get to it.
So the first question is, as you have traveled through so many countries as well as went to so many international universities, in the other hand, creating a revolution in learning and education in India. So what are the methodologies we should learn from international education system and implement in our current education system in India?
See, I really believe in the transformative power of experiences, right? I think one of the things that most people benefit from when they go to an international university and they go to be it to study, be it for an exchange program, be it for whatever it is they go, they learn from the people around them. And I think this is something that only community-based learning can give us. It's a great gift to us when you can go and sit in a classroom with 40 people from 30 different countries, and then you can hang out with them after class and learn about them as well. And what's even more interesting, I find, is when you get to see the world from their perspective, right? So every individual is unique. Every person, I am a computer engineer turned music producer turned entrepreneur and all of that. And my life's journey has been very different from anybody else I've met in school. I've had friends in my school who've come, but various schools that I've been to, who have been from literature, people who've been from history, from economics, from the world of philosophy, politics. And when all of these different ideas and different ideologies come together in the same space, that's when you really understand, that's when you really learn. And I think, in the world lately, we've seen a lot of polarity with everything. Every conversation has become very polar. You can only talk about right or wrong or left, I don't know. Depends on which side of the spectrum you're in. But everyone has a very strong opinion on where they stand. And suddenly this has given rise to this very toxic polar environment, I think, where we're not able to speak out about our own desires, our own ideologies, and still remain friends. I mean, why shouldn't we, right? I mean, everyone is different. Everyone, I mean, no two people are on the exact same space even on the political spectrum, even on the gender spectrum, on the sexual spectrum, or any spectrum under the planet, right? So unless and until you talk to other people, how do you know where you stand? How do you know how good your ideologies are? How good your thought processes are? So I think that's the biggest learning for me personally in the years when I've studied. I haven't been a student formally for the last 4 years now, but I mean, I guess I'm a student of life, I guess, for life. And even to this day, I spend a solid chunk of my day learning from those around me, from inspirational people that I meet at work. My work has really, been this one place where I've always been able to meet the people who are doing the best in their own fields, and I like to collaborate with them. I like to bring them on board to my projects to see how we can break each other's stigmas, stereotypes by working together. So this, I guess, is something that studying and traveling in various parts of the world has taught me. And even with work now, I keep traveling quite a bit. I mean, not now in the last 6-8 months. I haven't really been to a lot of places other than my office and my house. But let's see. Hopefully, by next year again, I can resume traveling and meeting interesting people, because that's what the biggest experiences in life come from.
Exactly. When we meet people, we really come to know about how different we are and what are our values, and that's really absolutely interesting thing. So our next question is, what are your views on this new education policy? Because it's in trend and it's really hopefully is going to bring a very good change in the education system, inducing critical thinking to the school students, to the college students. So what do you think about this new education policy?
Well, I would firstly say it's 30 years too late. This should have happened way back in time. Critical thinking is not new, right? It's interdisciplinarity is not new. Today we call it interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity. It's been one of the major facets of the new education policy. But what it actually refers to is liberal arts, right? And liberal arts has been part of the Indian education system forever. Even if you go back in time to when we had the big, when we had the Indus Valley civilization, or when we had the Takshashila, where students from all over the world used to come and learn about philosophy, politics, about socioeconomic, questions of that time. This was still a very big part of our education system. It's only in the recent past, in the last, since the British left us, I guess, we've kind of kept our British education systems alive without changing them, and the UK has changed them sporadically, but we haven't, which means that we're very late in introducing these things. It should have been done way before. But as they say, better late than never. I guess I did not get to enjoy that amount of experiential learning or interdisciplinary learning in school. Maybe my kids will, if they ever go to school in India. And I think it's good in intent. I will see. Let's see where the implementation of that goes, because India is very similar, I feel, in the implementation of its policies as it is in winning the final matches in cricket. We always kind of screw up at the very last moment, most of the time.
In the implementation part.
The implementation is to be seen. If it's well implemented, then better late than never. We'd have better schools. We'd have a more of a holistic education from the school time, because it really frustrates me when people who send their kids to engineering schools would trash talk about kids who go to the arts, because the arts in India are for kids who did not get into engineering, and that is a notion that needs to absolutely leave your heads, because I think artists are the way they are because they understand the world like nobody else. So the juxtaposition of the arts and engineering and business is what's going to give us tomorrow's world leaders. So unless and until we are able to see the world from that liberal arts perspective, from that perspective of understanding what's happening around us and then coming up with solutions rather than just coming up with a solution because we think it might be worth it, I think then maybe we're in for a treat. Hopefully the education system overall will improve.
Absolutely, sir. So I have a question with innovation, but before that, I want to have a tag questions from your sayings, like engineering colleges. So I have termed a disease that's a mental disease called BSSIN, being a servant syndrome induced by negativity. So all the engineers want to get a job without having an idea of what they really need to do in that particular job, whether that is really feasible as well as synchronized with their passion or not. So how engineering student can get out of this thing?
Firstly, it's not a fault of just the engineering colleges. It's not a fault of the students either. It's really a fault of the way that society has been developed in the post-colonial era, right? So it was really the interest of the British when they colonized our country, that they would create servants, that they would create people who listen very well. They create monkeys who would listen to every whim of the British and then act accordingly, which has just resulted in kids who do not know how to think critically because it's not been part of our curriculum. It's not something that is taught in school. Rather the opposite. I mean, remember every time you've been in school or at home when you were a kid and you had a question, and if somebody didn't know the question, they'd be like, "Jaliyo na, prashna koro na." They'd say something like that, and then they thwart your curiosity.
These kind of statements are there.
Yeah. So the moment you start thwarting curiosity, the moment you start thwarting dissent in any society or an economy, you give rise to the opposite of intellectuals. You give rise to slaves, and the engineering, fraternity has been at the receiving end of it, and much like the business students as well. I mean, what's the point of going to business school? Why business kids who pass out of business schools with MBAs are over glorified and better paid servants still? They're not really doing a lot better on that. Maybe the top 5% who end up starting their own companies or becoming entrepreneurs, or leaving the country, going somewhere, giving their time and effort into developing another country, they probably will talk about it otherwise. But most of them, I don't think they're really bringing in any innovation into the country in a way. And I say that after having gone to a few of the biggest business schools in the world, right? And I think it's not even really in India. Business schools everywhere I feel are very flawed. There's a lot of issues. You don't really learn a lot from class. It's still pretty backdated, very, very traditional in its approach. Not enough focus on entrepreneurship, because you have to understand this as well. Why do people do what they do? It's because they see a straight line path, and human beings don't like thinking so much. They feel that if I take the straight line path, at the end of it lies a better job, lies a better career, easy, 9 to 5. I'm going to put in some effort, have a great life, and that's a dream. And I also understand the pain of a lot of these students, because I mean, even at our group we have so many students, and I get to talk to a lot of them, talk to a lot of their parents. And if I think about it, they are also not at fault, because most of the parents who are sending these kids to the engineering colleges, they themselves never went to school. They never went to a college. So for them, they know that আমার পাশের বাড়ির এই ঘোষ বাবু উনার ছেলেকে ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং কলেজে পাঠিয়েছিল বলে আজকে ওর একটা ক্যারিয়ার তৈরি হয়ে গেছে।
And not only engineering, the stream has already been decided. Mechanical pore chakri peyeche, so you have to take mechanical or something like that.
You have to take that path, and you can't blame them, right? Their parents, they want their kids to have a better life than they had, so of course they want to send them to that. And which I think is one of the biggest problems, especially with our state at this point, is I've faced so much resistance in building entrepreneurs, because I think the only way, not just in a post-pandemic situation, but at any given point of time, if you want any economy to grow, you have to rely on its entrepreneurs. You need people to think like those who've not been, look at problems the way that they've not been looked at before. And you can't do that being in a 9 to 5 job unless you're very frustrated with it. So the best kind of entrepreneurs, actually, I feel, are the ones who've tried something, lost everything, joined a job, almost given up on their hopes, and then at some point had this realization in a midlife crisis that I've wasted my life up to this point. I've made some money, but what is all of it worth? And I think middle-aged entrepreneurs, that's why have the highest success ratios, even a lot more than student level entrepreneurs, because
there is no comeback, there is no get back to something else, because they have done all this stuff and it's not working.
At that point, they have responsibilities. They have a family. They have a kid. They have to take care of them. If this venture doesn't work, they're screwed. So that when push comes to shove, we bring out the best amount of innovation. Same way, if you can compare that situation to the pandemic as well. If you look at any kind of crisis around the world, you will notice that the most amount of innovation happens right after a crisis. And it's historical. Look at every big crisis innovation that has happened. You will see every big spurt of innovation happens right after a crisis situation. So I mean, it's the same story, right? If there's no going back right now, and I think the pandemic also has been. And I know you haven't asked me about the pandemic, but I think it's important to address the elephant in the room, because it's a question on everyone's mind. And we've also reached a stage in India, I think now, when people don't really care about it that much. They're like, continue with our lives, tired of being at home, whatever. So, but that's not the point I'm going to get to. We should still be very, very careful. We are far away from the end of it, but we also need to realize that the people with traditional mindsets, thinking about scraping past today, somehow reaching tomorrow and figuring out what you're going to do tomorrow, these people are not going to bring in, they are not going to usher in the tomorrow. The people who are thinking, let's figure out a solution for my problem, because I don't know when the problem is going to end. These kind of people, these kind of do-gooders and naysayers who say, I don't believe that it's something I can't do. I'm sure I can do it. These are the good kind of naysayers. I think we need more of that, and hopefully there'll be more innovation around us, and hopefully West Bengal as a state or Kolkata as a city will end up becoming a bit more relatable for its young people. Because if I did not have the amount of energy I do to be able to do so many things that I do, I don't think I would have been able to stay in Kolkata. It doesn't inspire as a city. I think it doesn't inspire you to do a lot of things unless you really care about it. Only very hardcore Bengalis, and when I say Bengalis, I mean anyone, even doesn't matter if you're Marwari or Gujarati or Punjabi. If you've lived in Kolkata long enough, you're a Bengali. You're Kolkata. So I think only true Kolkatans understand the plight of it. And I just want to see a generation, maybe the next one, or hopefully by the one after that, where people are not leaving the city to go and find opportunities outside. Because by then, hopefully with all the entrepreneurs working together, we will be able to come up with more opportunities in the city itself. Better ecosystem, I think, which really helps.
Absolutely. That's really incredible to know about this kind of mindsets, and we are really hopeful because you are leading one of the biggest conglomerate of education. So we are very much hopeful that if you are thinking in this way, so we are going to have a very good future. Maybe we are not having that kind of education. Maybe our kid or their kid will surely have it, because the work is in a very, very, very important hand, and I hope you will do it, and we can see the changes very soon. And we are already seeing the changes, like Equally Intuit Lab and all those stuff, because there is no proper design institute in, maybe not in India and West Bengal itself. So having that particular institute in Kolkata is a pride moment for all of us, and all the designer artists. It's a haven for them. So that's really incredible. So the next question is, what is the importance of innovation in education system, and as well as how hackathon really helps students to innovate? What is the importance of hackathon?
So I'm a huge believer in hackathons. Honestly, a couple of years ago, I think when I started Offbeat CCU, Offbeat is this school of the future that's where I am right now. Actually, it's looking out at the end of the day. I have a beautiful view over a lake from my office. But this is where a lot of innovation happens. From the very first day when it was an old hotel, we took it over and we converted it into a place which is dedicated to discovering the future of education, entrepreneurship, hospitality, arts and entertainment. A lot of things happen here. One of the major ideas we had was, hey, if you want to instill the ideas of entrepreneurship in someone, you need them to meet their idols. You need them to meet people who are smarter than them. You need them to meet people who are very different from them. And that's why this whole community-based learning approach that I took on. And hackathons form a very core element of it. So we've organized many hackathons here, supporting various groups, incubators, accelerators. We run a few incubators from here as well. And even within this pandemic time, I think I've organized 3 hackathons, 2 of them being the biggest hackathons ever attempted by mankind. So I was part of the global jury and organizing team of the Global Hack, which had about 50,000 participants from around the world. And I was heading the education track, education and future of work track with the co-founder of LinkedIn. He was the guy leading the track, and we had people. We had some incredible ideas and innovation coming out of that space. 2 days of not sleeping at all, being with these very young people, some old people as well. But whoever's interested in innovation, it's something that I love, that energy in general. And it was all virtual, right? So all of the hackathons I've organized in the last 3 months have been completely virtual. There was also this other hackathon that we did at Techno India, which was called the Future Proof Hackathon. And you probably have heard about it. We had about 1,500 participating startups, I think, and it was incredible, the kind of energy we saw. We had kids from IITs, from the NITs, from the various Techno India institutions, and a lot of our other institutions in the city as well. And the whole idea was finding the next 10 entrepreneurs who are going to disrupt tomorrow's industries. So it was not about entrepreneurs. I mean, yes, of course, entrepreneurs are important, but we're also looking for people with that mindset who can work with a team. I have ideas which I potentially think can redefine the narrative of the city. And for that, I am looking for a team. It's my team of Avengers, right? So that was why I organized the Future Proof Hackathon. And you won't believe, Arijit, the kind of amazing stories that we've seen come out of that. We're at the final stages of getting our top 10. From that, they've gone through like 4 levels of interviews, tasks, assignments after the hackathon was finished. And I think this is something that I really believe that hackathons can be great if you are able to take the energy from the hackathon and translate that into real work as well. Because if you just do the hackathon and then it's done, and it's like when we were kids, we used to have বসে আঁকো প্রতিযোগিতা, একটা পাড়ায় সবাই বসে আঁকছে ভাবছে, একটা গিফট দিল, নিয়ে বাড়ি চলে গেল. That can't be. Hackathon is not just a বসে entrepreneurship koro pratijogita. You have to take it forward.
Translate it to a real product or real idea implementation, not only the getting with the idea and doing a prototype and all.
Absolutely. And what we did with the finalists of the hackathon also was we sort of gave them the scope of all continuing to work on their ideas for 20% of the time, but the rest of the 80% they work on real industry problems. And they get paid for it. So it's really like an entrepreneurship model. An open innovation model like this does not really exist here. So we're trying to sort of create it from scratch. That is also happening at Offbeat. We're almost at the verge of opening up the new lab, which is called the Future Proof Lab. And because of the kind of space that we have here, because there are 8 stories of various kinds of studios. You have a dance studio, music studio, theater studio, MMA. I recently started doing kickboxing. I'm trying to get.
I have heard of the thing, but I didn't heard of the MMA.
The MMA just started. I had forgotten it myself. Day before yesterday, I was walking in and I met this guy who I'd heard on radio, and I'd met him once before Orco. And he's like, "Oh, you should come visit the new MMA facility." And I was like, "We have an MMA facility?" I had no clue. And then he's like, "Yeah, we made it. It's made like a beautiful battle cage, and it's there." He was teaching kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, muay thai. I was like, "You know what? I am interested. Let's get a bit fitter." So I joined his studio, and now I'm one of his students. All of this happened in the last 36 hours. So that's the kind of place I've tried to build here as well, where even as the guy who created this whole space, I should not know everything that happens here, because I need to know overall what's happening. But there needs to be energy that everybody puts into it. I can't change the city.
Dimension of the idea that is happening.
And collaborations mean everything to me. Like when even we have this incubator here called Free Flow, which is run by a couple of other players from the ecosystem, and they came up with a new model where they were trying out ghost kitchens. And they approached me like, would you like to try it out at our kitchen at Offbeat? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. And I think for us, every day is like a hackathon. If you ask me, we are constantly juggling ideas, doing these. We call them hold-ups internally. So we put ourselves into a room, lock the doors, like nobody's even going to toilet until we come up with the idea, with like the solution to a particular problem that we have. And we do that as a team, and we do that sometimes while having a few drinks. And we enjoy the time that we do that. And the whole idea of that is, hey, you need to come up with path-breaking ideas. Like, for example, I'll give you another idea that came up through one of our hold-ups a couple of weeks ago. And we were doing the hold-up on our roof. Back then it was nothing. It was completely empty. I got a couple of chairs and
But
tables.
now there's a cafeteria right now.
Now and that was the result. We went there and we had to take some chairs out upstairs and we had to sit, and there was no lighting, and this was like and I'm like, this is such a nice place, and I can actually take off my mask right now, and then we started talking to each other. We were like, why don't we just convert this into a place where other people can also do their meetings? Somebody wants to go to a restaurant. It's very hard to go to an actual restaurant right now because it's all indoors. So on the rooftop, you don't have a problem with that because if you're for a big table and somebody sitting there, somebody there, it's all open air, so you don't care. So we were like, yeah, we've always thought about this cafe. Let's make a DIY cafe. Let's see what are the stuff we already have at Offbeat. We had some planks of wood. We made some furniture out of it. We had some lights lying around. We tied them to some pipes and we put it up. Got our guys to make some signages. In 10 days, we made a rooftop cafe. And it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was, we started the cafe on the 19th. And even last weekend, we had 60 covers already. There were 10 people waiting outside to come in, and it was crazy. I think even this Thursday we had like the place completely full. We did not even have place to let people sit down, and it came out of a hold up because we saw a problem. That's the whole idea of a hackathon, right? You see a problem and try to come up with a solution on the go. That's exactly what we did. We have a space. Let's without spending too much money. How do we convert it into a place where other people would also like to come? And finally, after almost 6 months of such little activity at Offbeat, not at Offbeat, everywhere around the world. Actually, at Offbeat, we've been doing so many things. I'm not complaining at all. My team is fantastic. Like I have a bunch of very young people who work with me, and they're always thinking on their feet. So this is another thing I'd like to tell young entrepreneurs who want to get into the space of building things. It's very important to know that some other people have your back. It's good to give strategy, and you're a CEO of a company, of a lab. You're trying to do something interesting. It's very important that at all points of time you know that your vision can be carried forward by your team. So choose your team very wisely. Choose your team, people who understand you, people who, and it sucks that I'm saying this because I don't want to overwork people, but sometimes we have a way of working where we're working well into the night, right? I'm a complete night owl. I go to sleep at 5 a.m. And my team, sometimes if I need them, I will text on the group that, hey, who's awake? We got some stuff to do. And I'm awake with them the whole time. And it's important that I set that as an example, that if even one other member of my team is awake and working on something, I am with them, guiding them, and leading from the front. It's important because I cannot be the kind of an entrepreneur who gives a task and then goes to bed himself and then I'll get an understanding from it later.
That's absolutely not an entrepreneurship mindset. So if we are not into that stuff, we are not included.
No, absolutely. And also it's important. And a lot of people say, hey, you know what, you should have a very strict, personal life and professional life. I've been married for 2 years, right? I have no boundaries at all. I work with my wife. I have no boundaries, professional or personal. And, sometimes it's hard. In a personal setting, you would want to have some boundaries like, hey, you know what, this day, so my Sundays, normally I try to not work, even though sometimes I'd end up having meetings and stuff. So other than Sundays, I think every night is open space. I'm well into the middle of the night. I'm working till like 3, 4 every night pretty much. And sometimes my team is awake with me. And, I make sure I compensate that by throwing nice parties for them as well. I care for my team. They make sure that I am comfortable, giving them also these kind of tasks, which might seem impossible to somebody else. But sometimes you have deadlines. Sometimes you have to make things work. And then we're all fighting it out as a team. And then if required, take the next day off. I don't care, but sometimes things have to be done on the block. So that's my way of working. I think it's also happened that a lot of people who are unable to cope with that have left my team, which is completely fine. And I've always wished them the best of luck. I've written letters of recommendations for their next companies. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to see them grow, or I've given them, there's been times people have left me and gone to start their own companies. I'm the happiest. Honestly, I tell them, here's seed funding. Please start your company, become successful, and then create your model of how you want to run your organization. Because no two organizations are the same. You need to lead the way that you are comfortable, right? I can't read, and no MBA course will teach you this. No booklet, there's nothing like that exists. So you have to find your way of whatever works. And if your team believes in you, the ones who believe in you will stay. They become even stronger with every given day. Ones who won't, they'll be ejected from the system. And doesn't matter. It's all fair game as long as you do it with trust and respect, and you don't take advantage of people. So that's good. And this is why I guess I think you were telling me about the NASA Space Innovation Challenge as well. And I think it's such a great idea and initiative taken by NASA to foster entrepreneurship and innovation in growing entrepreneurial ecosystems. I don't want to call it a developing country, because I don't think we're a developing country as such. There are a lot of things to be achieved, but come on, I mean, we've been at the top of our game for many years. Recently, in the last few decades, we've given into a bit of mediocrity, but other than that, I think we've been good. If you look at India's entrepreneurship ecosystem, we went from being a country which was producing zero PPEs to like the largest producer of PPEs and masks in the world. And Indian entrepreneurs, traditional entrepreneurs, if you call them, they created it, right? Babshadars, businessmen created it. They transformed their clothing factories, their raincoat factories, their chata factories, all other factories, and they started making, PPE kits.
So at that time, we didn't know about the term entrepreneurship, but it was happening in India for a longer period of time.
So throughout history, I think we've seen examples of that, and we should not cubbyhole ourselves saying, oh, they are doing so much better in the US, or they're doing so much better in some other country. No, it'll happen in its own pace. We have to create ecosystems. Of course, there are some resources which are available in different qualities, but don't whine. Don't be like, oh, amar kache paisa nei, kami company ki kore shuru korbo. How will I become an entrepreneur? And then why are you an entrepreneur? If you wanted money, then go. You could have joined the job. If that was your target, why did you have to get in? And entrepreneurship is not that pretty as it's painted by people. Oneke bole je, oh, what is this beautiful life that I'm going to have? I will write CEO next to my name or whatever. Most of the times when I see on LinkedIn, I get a lot of requests and messages from people, and they would have fancy titles next to their names. It's all good, but are you really contributing to the work that is expected of you as an entrepreneur? Are you willing to take risks every single day? Because at the end of the day, you are serving a team. You are at the helm of a team which is functioning because you are inspiring them to. You got to keep doing that every single day. I don't have weekends, man. I can't. If push comes to shove, even on the Sunday, which is sacred, where I try to spend with family, if push comes to shove, I'll quit everything and come out and work and be there next to my guys when it's required. So you have to take some.
Usually call about there should be a difference between work and work life and personal life. So they are really working. As far as I believe that if I am working for passion, if I am loving what I am doing, I am not really working. So it don't makes me unhappy to just give me what I want to do on Sunday. So that's mindset is really needed for entrepreneurs. There is no time limits or something like that.
I mean, it's just important, I think, to realize that not every day is going to be predictable. Yes, I will be able to enjoy a couple of Sundays, but if I don't, and if work comes, I will not give up on the work as well. If required, I will wake up in the middle of the night to solve a crisis situation, because otherwise, and I think that does not really only apply to entrepreneurs either. Even if you're working in an organization, I think that flexibility needs to be there. And a lot of times, a lot of these articles, people will say, don't sacrifice your mental health to be better at your job or to look for that next promotion. But that's also, and I agree with that 99% of the time. But for a lot of people, and I've met a lot of these people, for them, working is what gives them that mental peace. Working hard and being a workaholic, if it makes you happy, then, you are nobody to say, don't sacrifice on your mental health. I stand for mental health, and I've organized so many sessions for people who have been victims of mental health issues, and we've tied up with so many organizations to ensure mental health interventions for my staff and faculties and students and administrators. But at the end of the day, you got to let people be in their own way. If somebody is not comfortable taking that time off and just they would rather get the work done and then figure out what to do, so be it. Let people be.
Absolutely. So these are very, very important for all the entrepreneurs to hear. So this talk is going to be very much valuable for me, for my page, as well as for the whole community, I think. So let's
If
move to the next question. Yeah.
one person benefits from it, I guess that's still worth it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So next question is very interesting question from my perspective, because we are working on a very, very similar thing that is called techno spirituality. We are trying to bring nature's algorithm into sustainable technology, and that was used to happen in ancient India. What kind what kind of things we should learn from the ancient Indian education system? Because there's a time when the Indian education system is the number one in the world, and people used to come from different parts of the world to India to learn about the stuff, which is happening the inverse way right now. So, what are the things we should take from there and implement into our current education system?
So I actually spoke about this a little before when I was talking about Takshashila and for that. I think we need newer models of looking at ancient education systems. There were some things which were fantastic. I think if you look at different civilizations like the Mohenjo-daro civilization or the Harappa civilization, that's where a lot of learning by doing was happening. A lot more like practical approach to learning, where you would go as a shishya, you would go and stay with your guru and help him build his life and maybe his farm and maybe even further, and then maybe the guru was the scholar in the house or in the kingdom of a king, and then you would be contributing to building that kingdom through your work. And I think one of the things we don't realize, I think this is maybe the most important skill, I would say, if we want to bring back from the old education system, is the importance of sacrifice. I think sacrificing oneself is very important. I think right now we are at the brink of a generation which does not understand the importance of sacrifice very much. We are slowly heading towards a generation where immediate gains has become very important. Everybody that you look around you is some kind of an influencer, and if you've seen one YouTube video, you're suddenly a thought leader and you're an expert on whatever other field. And if it makes you happy, go ahead for doing that. But you must remember that it's also a lot of responsibility, and the responsibility comes as a great personality once said, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So great, if you want to put a tag of whatever it is that you want to put in front of your name, please go ahead and do it, but make sure that there is a certain intrinsic responsibility that you have whenever you take a holier than thou position or a position of power, because then there are people following you, and you need to be very sure of who you are, what you really bring to the table, so that you're not misleading people. And which is why I think what I really liked about the whole sacrifice, the self-sacrifice, which was a huge part of ancient learning in India, was that you could not do that without the blessing of your guru. Right? If you made mistakes, do it penance. If you make mistakes, and you can't have it that easy, that just because today on a whim I decided to start leading a bunch of people, you could end up making it into a cult, and that cult could stand for all the wrong things as well. So again, right, you might say right and wrong are very subjective, but things that might not be very beneficial for society. And which is why I think when you learn the hard way, when you really have to toil and put in effort into your work, I think it's important. Which is why I really believe in the transformative power of failures in general. A friend of mine back in the day, about I think 7-8 years ago, started this whole event called Fuck Up Nights, which was a whole concept created around getting people to talk about their failures on stage. It started in Belgium, in Brussels, and then it became a worldwide phenomenon, right? So they would get CEOs of companies to come and talk about their biggest failures on stage, because when you let it out, when you make a failure, when you make a big mistake, or when you go through a failure, you learn a lot more. But then you still have like this kind of guilt playing in the back end. If you had to say, for example, fire somebody you didn't want to, or you had to take some difficult business decisions, it weighs down upon you. And when you talk about it, when you let it out in front of a bigger gathering, in front of people, there's a sense of relief that comes from it. So which is why I love this concept of talking about failures in
Absolutely,
general.
it's a fantastic concept.
Yeah, and I think it started in India as well. A lot of I know this guy in Kolkata. He has this thing called Talk About Failures. I think Nikhil Bothra. He runs that, and whoever is taking it on in whatever context, it's very important to do that. So I think self-sacrifice is very important. And another thing I would like to talk about is the immediate validation. I think is something that is becoming more of a problem every single day. Even I think, and I'm nobody to not be swept out by the promises of what social media has, because social media as a weapon is far bigger than all of us. As a tool, it really all consuming, which is why I've been like reducing my social media usage a lot in the recent times. I'm really only on LinkedIn anymore. All the rest of my social media is kind of there. I get my teams to kind of work my social media. But one of the things that I've realized is, we give so much importance that people will recognize what we are worth immediately after we do it. It actually makes us take shorter steps. And the problem with shorter steps is that it takes that much longer to get to the big picture. It takes that much longer to reach the big vision or where you want to get in life. Because, it's been written about in every single book that exists. There's really no shortcuts to success. And again, success can be defined in different ways by different people. But wherever you want to go, if you see that, and I learned this very recently, actually. So I was talking to a very hardened entrepreneur, somebody who's gone from, selling credit cards and SIM cards on the street to selling secondhand cars, and now is a national award-winning film director and producer. I was talking to him, and when we were opening my rooftop, I said, he's a very close friend of mine, and I told him, hey, can you take care of the launch, because I won't be able to be there, and I have some other things to take care of. He said, thankfully, happy to do that. And he said, I require a couple of things from you. And I told him, is one of the things that I post about it, and I make a post that, we're opening the rooftop. And he said something which was very interesting. He said, that's going to give you 500 likes, but it's not going to bring 500 customers to your restaurant, because nobody cares. Nobody cares about like your social image, because that you will know this, the most powerful organizations in the world are the ones that you have no idea what they do. And these are the institutions that work beneath everything else. Because power does not come from showing your face everywhere. I think this is where I've already made a big mistake. I've already made myself given that leeway of making myself into a face in Kolkata, which people can recognize from my work. And purely from a very naive perspective, for me, I figured, just like you said right now, right, that it's good. There might be some things that I say which might be important to other young entrepreneurs, and I came from that perspective that maybe my presence in the city as somebody who understands a little bit, has created a few ventures, would inspire others to do the same, and hopefully we'll have a city of more entrepreneurs. But I think it's been my biggest disadvantage, and it is taking a lot of time to undo it. And I'm not kidding here, Arijit, when I say that I really wish that not that many people knew me. I really wish that I was not a known face, because then you can take decisions with a lot more impunity. Then you can take decisions without having to wonder what would people think of me. Because the moment, we say that a lot. We say that, log kya kahenge? That's a big issue. There's a big dilemma that everyone has. Sometimes we end up becoming the biggest targets of that. An entrepreneur cannot remain an entrepreneur if he keeps thinking, what would people think of it? I need to be so advanced in my thought process. I should have figured out 10 years ahead and then done the math backwards and figured out what are the things that people could possibly think of and found solutions for all of them. I shouldn't be taking decisions thinking, oh, kalke loke ki bhabbe ami jodi ei kajta kori ba na kori. I shouldn't be working for the people. I need to work for myself and bring that vision as well. So I think that instant validation, I think, is something that we as a community of young people need to leave behind, because it's not helping anybody. We do it for the likes and the comments and the followers and the social media traction, which is all well and great. But the moment you start something and it doesn't work, then you will realize how much it hurts. Because 500 people might have liked your post, but if they don't turn up to your business, then you're not selling, and that means you're just like not doing your work. So do both if you can. You can juggle both of them, creating an image as long as it's not a toxic image and you're able to still, do your business well. It's good. If not, well, you need to rethink your priorities because it's more important to deliver as a CEO or as the founder or as the leader in your business rather than gain likes for your image.
Yeah.
It's important, but it's not the most important thing.
Absolutely. So there are several questions I have to ask from the audience because audience are too much excited today. Maybe today is the most commented day. So I just starting taking questions from the audience.
Let's take some
Let's start with
questions.
the last one. Sir, for setting up the startup and entrepreneur, there is a need of patience and sacrifice, as you told. But beside putting the lot of effort, how should I boost myself to overcome these problems and come out with a positive result?
So this is a quest. The answer to this question only lies with you. Nobody else can really give you this booklet which tells you how to deal with, how to deal with. And we were just talking about this right now. Right?
Yeah,
We end up expecting that আজকে আমি আমার নামের পাশে সিইও and startup founder লিখে দেবো বলেই কালকে আমার কিন্তু ব্যবসাটা সাকসেস হয়ে গেল এটা কিন্তু একেবারেই নয়. Right, and for this patience and sacrifice is so important and if you can't go through that journey yourself, nobody else can do it for you, right? It's a bit like taking your board exams, right?
exactly.
It's about you have to put in that effort. Everybody has had to put in that effort. Every successful entrepreneur has spent many sleepless nights and has had anxiety and hair fall because they are not able to deal with the stress. It's an important part of the startup journey, and if you're not able to enjoy that journey and take lessons on the way, you're not going to get very far, dear Ashish, whoever you are. And I hope you realize that over time that this journey is what's going to get you prepared for that bigger journey of life where you will have to make sacrifices for other people. Understanding that your life is not your own, I think, is something very important that the Indian tradition and Indian culture also teaches us. I think I'm very deeply rooted as a Bengali and as an Indian, deep down inside, even though I might not agree with a lot of things happening in my country right now. But I really do believe that we should be proud of where you're from and try to make changes rather than blaming other people for mistakes.
Exactly. Either accept it or change it. There is no in between.
Two ways about it. And when we start last year, when we started, it's been more than a year now, when we started the Ganges River cleanup project. And it's such a marquee project in Kolkata right now because every Sunday, we have people coming from all across the city, citizens I've never met in my life, who come and help us clean the Ganges, right? And it's run by a team of project managers and students, and they've successfully managed to keep the rhythm for more than a year now. And when we did that, people would say, are you crazy? Who goes to it's disgusting. People shit on the Ganges, on the banks of the Ganges. Yeah, so of course, and then you blame it on the local people. How can you blame it on the local people? They don't have infrastructure to go to the toilet. Of course they shit on that. So if you want to change it so much, why don't you get your hands dirty? There's only one way to change that. You have to lead by example. You can't say, "Amar government kichu kore na, amar local councillor kichu kore na," all excuses. It's worthless. So lead by example. We went out onto the Ganges, and then we started doing it ourselves. We wore gloves, yes, we put on masks, and we started cleaning it, and it happened. So I think it's important that you learn that sacrificing things for others is very important. Sacrificing yourself for your bigger goal is also important. That's another thing we learn from the ancient scriptures and texts as well. And you will realize if today you can't sacrifice your laziness time and the time that you would have spent playing video games is great. I don't play myself. I should be cursing others who do. I watch a lot of documentaries and I read a lot. But for those, whatever makes you happy, you need to relax as well. But don't do it in the time when you should be working, right? Like don't wake up at midday and then have a huge lunch and then go back to sleep and then play video games and spend your whole day doing that and then complain that my startup is not successful. If you're not on the ground with people who you're helping, you're not really helping, right? So that's something important. And again, later on in life, you'll have to sacrifice. You'll have to sacrifice for the needs of your family. You have to sacrifice for your wife, for your child. You might just keep one thing in mind, that your ideals are important. You should continue your life. If everyone has core beliefs, core values, should stick to those. But other than that, sacrificing the immediate needs for a bigger need is very important as well. And you'll have to do that many
Absolutely.
times in life. And I hope you find the strength in yourself to keep doing that. It's going to be difficult otherwise.
That's
Tough.
absolutely fantastic. And hope Ashish will really get the answer from it. And so, as a gist, your mission, vision, and goal should be the top priority thing. Then whatever else is coming in the way. So let's go to the next question from the audience. It's from Sriti Sharma. Being productive is the most important factor when we work towards something. What habits can help me be effective with my productivity?
Great question, Smriti. It's something that I picked up when I was living by myself. I think every kid, when you get out of the shackles of your very youth, like when you're 16, 17, 18, you have parents around you, especially in a country like India. We have people around us to do our work, and we don't realize how important it is to do things with our own hands. And it's something that I learned while living by myself, that I am the most productive on days where I don't wake up and spend another minute in bed. I don't do that. It's not something that I do. So I will wake up, I will make my bed so that at least one thing is out of the way, that my bed is ready for whenever you can get back on it. I don't work from my bed. At least I try not to, unless it's late in the evening or at night. Have a space where you work out of from every day. I think this rhythm and acclimatization is very important in terms of productivity and efficiency. So even during the lockdown, I think during these last, how long has it been, 6, 7, 8 months, I think I've worked harder than I have in my whole life. I've lost the most amount of hair as well. I have a receding hairline now. Very soon I will be called a kaku. I'm already being called a kaku in public. I don't know if I should be a bit happy about it, that I look older and with a baby face, or I should feel like sad because I already reached my 30s. But what's important to understand is you are yourself responsible for how productive you get. Sometimes taking breaks regularly is very important. Having a schedule for yourself is very important. That don't be that kind of a worker where you wake up once at 6 in the morning, and then every day you wake up at 12, and then you want to be productive, because your body and your mind will not be used to it, right? So I'm a very late riser, and my work, I've built my work schedule in a way which works with my body's natural function. Ever since I was an engineer back in the day, to when I went to business school, to whenever I've built companies, I can't work in the morning. My body is not prepared to let me work in the morning. I'm not productive at any time before 10:30 a.m. So I don't even wake up before that, which is why I work late into the night. So my body is acclimatized to being a night owl, because that's what I've been through my life. So I continue that. I go to sleep at 3, 4, 5 in the morning. I don't really care what people tell me. Oh, your schedule is going to make you very sick or whatever. Yeah, if it makes me sick, what can I do? I can't really help it. If I'm not productive in the morning, I'm not going to spend my morning and force myself to get out of bed and do that. So I wake up comfortably when I normally around 9:30, 10, sometimes 10:30. But I know that at 11 o'clock, I am at my desk. I take regular breaks. I see my friends, be it mostly offline, now a little bit online, at least twice a week. Spend quality time with family a couple of times a week. Have meals with your family. I think it's very important that we realize the importance of our families in our life as well. And I think productivity is going to come by itself. If you set your goal to something, it's bound to happen. Just don't shy away from your goals, and don't shy away from putting in the effort to achieve your goals.
That's great. Hope these habits will really help not only Sriti, all the people who is watching it. And it's really true. Everybody has their own body clock, so the body goes with that clock only, not with the physical clock we have in our home. So it's about your lifestyle and all those stuff. It's not about what you're waking up at 7 o'clock, because I am also from that fraternity to wake up a little bit later and all this stuff.
Okay,
Anyways, so we
see.
have. We have another question from Ishank Shubuddhi. Sir, I am interested in social entrepreneurship, but I am unable to find how to turn it into a business so that the business part can give me a funding for solving any social cause through social entrepreneurship.
Great question, Ishank. I really believe in social entrepreneurship, because I'm a recent convert. I did not understand social entrepreneurship very well until I married my wife, who is from the space of social entrepreneurship. She studied that professionally, and she converted my thought processes with one very simple statement. And I'll actually share that with you guys. So a lot of you might, if you're connected with me on LinkedIn or wherever, you know that I love the city very much. I love Kolkata. I love being here. And I'm very proud of the way that I talk about my city as well. And it's kind of my vision, my goal to make this city a bit more tolerable, a bit more relatable for young people. And one day, Pauline, my wife, she told me that, in 20 years from now, because of global warming, the city of Kolkata might not even exist anymore because of inundation and with water spillage. And that was part of this very famous documentary called An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, ex-vice president and a Nobel Prize winner. And what's interesting from this perspective, I started realizing how little what I do would mean if everything I do gets destroyed in 20 years, right? Then I'm not leaving behind a legacy at all, and I'm not building something that's going to be, visible to people for a very long time.
Absolutely.
So I started believing in the space a lot more. Through that, I actually ended up learning about the basic tenets of social entrepreneurship. And one of the things, Ishank, that you need to understand, and the main difference I think between any other kind of entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, is that it's not only nobody's stopping you from generating profits from your social enterprise. It's just that the mindset is different. The mindset is not that I don't do it for the profits, I do it for the impact. In fact, I have an issue with calling it social entrepreneurship because that's not what it is. You're not doing it as a charity for the social cause. It should be renamed to impact entrepreneurship. In fact, across most of the bigger universities across the world, it is called impact entrepreneurship, and it's something that you're doing in terms of business, which has a long-standing impact in society, in on the environment, in tomorrow's generations. And there's plenty of business ideas that you can make tons of money from. Like you can think of a company like I don't know, like a Jaipur Rugs, which gets older people of the community to weave rugs and sells it for a much higher cost, and then the proceeds go back to them. There's a very interesting girl doing great social entrepreneurship work in Kolkata. Her name's Priyanka Mondal. I had on her a session a few days ago for ABP, and she has this company called Clan Earth, where they make bags and wallets from materials that are normally not found everywhere else. And she uses wax and other such materials to make these wallets, and she makes a handsome profit out of these. These are expensive items, but she also makes sure that for every single sale that she makes, one, she does not harm the environment because she's using a renewable, sustainable material, and two, five trees are planted for every single sale that they do. So it's about understanding where your business model is. How do you still sell products or services, which you can keep doing in the exact same way, but just make sure that you're not doing it for the sole purpose of profit. Don't give into this idea of, yeah, I need to raise grants or raise money. Then you're a charity, then you're an NGO, then you're not a businessman, then you're not an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs don't think of where to raise money before solving the problem. Solve the problem, money is going to come. And in fact, this is something that I learned from my father, who did not have any money when he started Techno India Group 35 years ago. And if for all those people who talk about, I can't start a business because I don't have money or I don't have funding, how will I solve a problem? He solved that problem from his garage in Hooghly. He started teaching kids computer science, and he didn't even have a computer. He didn't have money to buy a computer. He didn't have money to do that. And today he's the proud founder of the largest education conglomerate in the country. We have 80,000 students. We have 5,000 faculty and staff. If he were had the same mindset back then, oh, পয়সা কোথা থেকে আসবে, funding কোথায়, angel, কোথায় VC, it would have never happened. He মাছের তেলে মাছ ভাজতে হবে. You have to come up with solutions where you're creating something, creating value, converting that. And in India, if you look at it, education is non-profit. It's still completely non-profit. It can be considered to be social entrepreneurship because it depends on the way you're doing it. If you're if you're taking advantage of the system, not then. But in its very essence, it's still social entrepreneurship because you're helping create the workforce of tomorrow. So I'm sure you will. I mean, if you have some questions, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn with your pitch deck, with your idea. If you're sending me a half-baked idea, I will not look at it. I'm also very. Please be aware that and I get a lot of these messages sometimes, and people get very offended when I don't reply. And sometimes somebody would just write hi on LinkedIn. I'm like, what am I going to do with your message? What should I reply? Like, I get 15 highs a day. What will I do with your message? It's a bit like, Dada friendship korbe. It's LinkedIn. Like, have some respect for yourself, have some respect for me. You're sending me a message. Tell me what you want. I'll try to help you. Be as in your face, as clear cut as you can be, because if you do that properly, you will get people to listen to you. Think about it, spend time with your idea. It's your idea, it's your business, it's not mine. I can only come and help. I can give you an outsider's perspective. You'll have to do the big work, you'll have to do the pulling, but we're there as the ecosystem. We're there to help you out in whatever way you need. So don't stop thinking about funding. Start thinking about solving a problem that you see around you, and hopefully things will work out.
So we are absolutely at the end of the schedule, but there are 2 more questions left. So it's your decision whether you will answer those things or we have to end the show.
No problem.
Okay, sure,
no problem.
Sure. That's great. So according to it's from Ashish. According to you, how can a undergraduate student can start his startup alongside his studies? What problems can be faced, and is it preferable?
Ashish, I will keep this answer very short. There is only one way to find out. Go out there, start, and you are at a position in your life. You will never have lesser responsibilities. Studying undergraduate, especially engineering, is the least time-consuming thing in the world. Tell me, I have been there, I have done that. I started my first company when I was 19 years old. I was still second year of college, and I managed fairly well. I had a 9.3, I think was my GPA, 9.3 or 9.4, and I still had a very successful startup, which was in the music space, and it had nothing to do with what I wanted to do. It just happened somehow because I was really interested in music and I couldn't be a musician. So, find out, you'll figure out the problems. You don't want me to tell you the problems, then you will not have any learnings from the problems. So I want you to go and find out answers from your own problems. But yeah, you will never have a time in your life again where you will have so little responsibility. So while you're in your undergrad, really, I would suggest go and try it out. And even if the company is a complete failure and nothing comes out of it, at least you'll have an interesting thing on your resume that you can talk about with your potential employer. So just for that purpose, if you want to build your CV, starting a company, is a great idea.
Absolutely. I also truly believe that stuff. So less responsibilities and more resources. They have 2,000 friends in college, so they can be their potential customers.
That is the biggest target audience. Start a WhatsApp group and then start selling your products to every one of your classmates. There you have your ready audience. In your life after you pass out of college, nobody will care about you enough to buy your products. They will care about you, but not enough to buy your products, because in college they'll have to see your face every day. If they be such a hard seller that they will feel bad every time they don't buy your product. So go for it. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Absolutely. And this is the last question from Rutuja. Sir, having worked in different countries, how do you think is the startup ecosystem in India different from other countries, both in positive and negative way?
All across India, we have different kinds of startup ecosystems. Kolkata is very nascent. Kolkata, West Bengal, I think since I moved back in 2017, it's been a lot of efforts in trying to regularize the ecosystem as well, creating awareness amongst college students so they can pick up the career. That happens from a very young age in most other so-called developed countries. But I think one of the most positive things about the Indian ecosystem is the fact that we are Indians and we don't really care very much when it comes to dhanda. And this, I think, Marwaris do it so well, Sindhis do it so well. I don't know why we Bengalis are so, we think so much before doing something. I think our biggest strength lies in the fact that because we've always worked in a resource constrained environment, we are great at jugaad. We are great at frugal innovation. We always find out solutions in the most resource constrained ways. Even when we don't have resources, we find out a way to solve problems. That I think is the biggest benefit of it. Of course, there's a lot to be achieved by the ecosystem in general. One of the things I think, again, it's not a problem of the ecosystem in general, but it's a problem of us Indians. We're very bad at packaging. We're very good at selling. We are very fearless when it comes to sell. আমরা খুব ভালো negotiate করতে পারি. We're very good at negotiation, but we're not very good at packaging things. So I think if we want to see ourselves at the top of the game in the future, we'll have to get better at taking our products and understanding how to package them better. I think this also is a problem that is fed by engineers. Engineers are not very good at creating stories. If you're not able to create good stories around, most engineers, some of them are great. Some of my personal friends, like I don't know if you know about Chirag from the Minimalist. He founded Minimalist when he was in college at IIT Bombay, and he figured out this whole business model of Minimalist while he was creating posters and banners for his college fest. That was such a great startup idea, and now he's got one of the most influential startups in the country, taking on massive marketing projects as an agency, and working with some of the biggest clients in the country. So there's a lot to be learned, a lot to be achieved as well. But don't try to pull others down. I think that's another thing we need to change in the mindset as well. You becoming a more successful entrepreneur, or anybody for that matter in your life, entrepreneurship is not that different from life. The more of a risk taker you are, better it works. Sometimes if you're failing and you bounce back from your failure, it works both in terms of life and in entrepreneurship the same way. So that'd be my only maybe closing comments on that you'd have to figure out a way to not pull others down when you are facing a crisis, because nobody ever got big in life by making others small. We are all interconnected webs within the same ecosystem. If I do not pull others up, then when I need it most, others will not be able to pull me up. So don't be jealous. Out of jealousy or spite, do not try to make the ecosystem smaller than it already is. That's something that most successful entrepreneurship ecosystems, they've done it very well. And I think I'll probably finish with an example of a country that I have been greatly inspired by. The name of that country is Estonia. It's a tiny country in the northeast of Europe, right below Finland. And one of the things that they've never had is a lot of natural resources. But in the last 20-30 years, they've become one of the most forward-looking countries. They're the world's first digital economy. All of the governmental processes are online. You can get a visa for Estonia without even ever going to Estonia. You can get an e-residency for Europe just by applying for an e-visa. You can open a company in Estonia without even going to Estonia. You can vote in Estonia without even being there. So everything is digitalized. Everything is on a blockchain. And the reason why I like the economy, the growth pattern, and I love the story so much, is it all started because of one company which started in Estonia called Skype. We've all heard about Skype. It started in Tallinn. And since then, the founder of Skype, along with a couple of founders of other very successful companies like TransferWise or Bolt, which is like a big competitor to Uber, these guys, what they did was they came together, and they're called the Estonian Mafia. There's 6 of them. They came together and they made sure that they increased the power, their own bargaining power, by making the ecosystem bigger. So they invest in each other's companies. They invest in all the young companies coming out of there. They build ecosystems. They build incubators, accelerators, and in general, just pull up the whole economy. And they've been able to make Estonia as a country itself, and even though it's a very small country, but they've made it so attractive to people outside. And I think in India we have so much. We have so many resources. Why are we not able to do that? Because we have this tendency of pulling each other down. We need to make sure that we pull each other up, and that's the only way that the entrepreneurship ecosystem will grow in the future. So
that is the biggest reason for Bengal ecosystem is not flourishing that much. It's happening. It's obviously upgrading. But this pulling others down is very big reason of not having a good business, because if we cannot work together, if we cannot work like an ecosystem, it's very difficult to grow. like a company. And that's there in Marwadi ecosystem and the Sindhi ecosystem. They really help each other to grow, and that's why they're making so much of business.
And even in the Bengali ecosystem outside of Kolkata, it still happens. There's a lot of tight bonded networks because they know it's to be benefited. You know, I think that hopefully in the very near future we will not have to worry about that to build up our ecosystem. And hopefully tomorrow when my kids become entrepreneurs, because I know my kids will definitely be entrepreneurs. I know that for sure whenever I do have kids. But when they do, and if they do decide to stay in Kolkata or whatever they do, I hope the ecosystem is a bit more interesting for them. And by then, we would have stopped backbiting each other and talking shit about each other in their backs.
Exactly. So we are absolutely at the end of the show, and thank you so much for it's really a really very, very interesting session for me itself. And I know about the audience and they really loved it. I can understand from their engagement, from the comments and all those stuff. So thank you so much for this lovely 1 hour, and hope to meet soon and discuss about new ideas if I am able to meet you. And I will surely share the videos and all those stuff about the robot that I have built. And we can just think about some good ecosystem. Thank you so much, sir, for giving the 1 hour, and it's really wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thank you, Arijit. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. Hope you have a lovely evening and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.